Hi, this is John Yao, and I'm reading from the Woodberry Poetry Room. I'm going to read from two recent books, Genghis Chan on Drums and Tell It Slant. And I'll read them in chronological order. So the first group of poems will be from Genghis Chan on Drums. And the first poem is on being told that I don't look and act Chinese. I am deeply grateful for your good opinion. I am honestly indignant. I confess, a little discouraged. I am inclined to agree with you. I'm incredulous. I'm in a chastened mood. I am far more grieved than I can tell you. I am naturally overjoyed. I'm not going to let you pay me idle compliments. I'm not in the least surprised. I'm not sure I can manage it. I'm persuaded by your candor. I am quite discomfited. I am so glad you think that. I'm sorry to disillusion you. I can assure you it is more painful to me to hear you say it like that. I can easily understand your astonishment. I can only tell you the bare facts. I detest exaggeration. I don't know quite why you would say that. I hadn't thought of it in that light. I have never heard it put so well. I see it from a different angle. I stand corrected. The next poem I'm going to read is called After I Turn 68. I find distasteful ways to use the words enduring and hopeful. I begin stockpiling my daily doses of radiation in an abandoned dollhouse. I order crystals from mail-order spiritual specialists and bury them in the front yard. I start telling my neighbors that I'm interested in marrying an older mermaid. I ask a coworker if it is unsanitary to sneeze into my unwashed armpits. I confess to the druggist that the condoms are for my besotted dog. I tell the taxi driver that I was lucky to have escaped from the morgue. I shrug my shoulders and pretend that I don't know what you're saying. I ask people if they've seen any strange pedestrians wandering around, dazed. I carry a toy telephone under my arm and talk into it whenever I go outside. I once told my psychiatrist that I speak gibberish in 4 different languages. I pretend that I'm a poet interested in discarded library books and obscure rhymes. I always sign the guest book with 3 X's because growing old is pornographic. The next group of poems, I'm only going to read some from a series called Opinion Sonnets. And opinion is the translation of Chinese sound into English. So I'm making a pun about opinion. And these are written during COVID-19, the pandemic. Chinese people can't cry. Their eyes aren't big enough. There's a little beginning. Their eyes aren't big or straight enough to let them crocodile slippers slide out. An Eastern noodle where every dentist is Wong. You can always buy samples of boiled dog squalor. Why should we let them try and keep up with us? How dare they look at us with that impervious squint? Make no mistake, these are tight-fisted little marauders. Hollywood Assessment got the right narrative for this. You need to kill them off in the first or second scene. Further proof that they'll get what is coming. Let them enjoy the fruits of overpopulation. Let their countryside fill with falling sheep. Let them crawl over each other. Rapacious bugs think. They can warm their spreading butts on America's corpse. And the next one from this series is 28, Opinion Sonnet 28. They cannot say they invented the atom bomb. They keep crickets in cages and listen to frogs. They don't like to use the knife and fork. They don't drink milk and prefer to eat pigs. They use a different horoscope than the one in the Sunday newspaper. They cry when no one is looking and they don't count their tears. They don't write words that can be translated into English. They brush in their sons with dusty black ink. They know how to stop juices from flowing to the brain. They claim to have invented spaghetti, but they don't eat waffles. They like to keep their old people alive as long as possible. They venerate the dead as if they were still sitting beside you. They spit on the sidewalk while talking with their friends. Their hair is great for wigs, and they're good at manicuring. The next one is called The Congressman's Explanation. If you live in your car, I don't have to worry about you not being able to pay rent. If you eat scraps from a dumpster, I don't have to worry about you stealing food. You don't deserve to put in your miserable mouth and fumbling with your rotting teeth. If you find temporary employment in a warehouse so big that no one remembers your name, I don't have to worry about you thinking your life is shit. Others with name tags will help you reach that conclusion. And if they have any brains sitting fat inside their misshapen skulls, they will inform you that you should have been left out in the rain because you didn't save for a rainy day. It's the American way. Everyone gets what they merit. You got here on your own, didn't you? Is it my fault that you failed miserably at being human? That you became another blossoming eyesore on the scrubbed face of this great nation? There's a good reason that you were drubbed, and you know deep in your worm-riddled heart that you got what you earned. If you live in your car, I don't have to worry about where you will sleep at night. If you live in your car, I won't have to concern myself with where you will be found once you are dead. Another petty thought that takes up too much of my precious day when I have the untrammeled happiness of my constituents to think about. If you live in your car, I don't have to worry about the next election because you'll be gone one way or another. Next poem's called The President's Second Telegram. This poem is based on a news report of something the president said on a certain occasion, which will become clear. The President's Second Telegram, and it was read on May 18th, 2018. Unfortunately, early reports of school not looking good. Unfortunately, this loss of decades has been going on too long. We're with you forever in the sadness, school. We're affected by this absolutely terrible heartbreak hour. We send our love to everyone affected by our country. We send the loss of life our horrific, deadly forever. We grieve for years of heartbreak in this tragic attack. And I'll read the third one, the President's third telegram, which is found in the newspaper on June 29, 2018. There are no words to express the horrible hour that happened. Journalists, like all fear, should be attacked while doing their jobs. To the families of the violently, there are victims who regret your loss. My job is to pledge eternal support for our horrible sorrow. When you are suffering, we always remember to pledge warmest, best wishes. And then this is another statement made by the president on December 23rd, 2019, where he's instructing us. The president's first lesson on air. It's true. I know bird graveyards better than anybody. I've studied killing bald eagles better than anybody living in our universe, in Germany or under a windmill. If you own a house based on wind, I know you manufacture a tremendous amount of fumes, spewing noisy carbon into the atmosphere. I know. I've studied killing better than anybody. whether it's in China or your house, and the television goes off, I know dead birds are spewing cancer from the graveyards of our tiny world into our air, our wind, our everything. Congratulations, they say. Congratulations on your tiny world full of windmills and air. All right, this is a pantoum. I've written a number of them. It's a particular form in which every line is repeated twice, and all the ones I'm going to read, unless I say otherwise, are based on statements or interviews with painters. So this is a painter's thoughts, and it's after William Bailey, 1930-2020. I want to paint in a way that the eye disappears into the sky and trees. The idea of a slowed down, slowly unfolding image held my attention. Variations on a theme are of no interest. A bowl and cup are not ideas. I want my painting to be what it contains. It should speak, not me. The idea of a slowed down, slowly unfolding image held my attention. I paint things made of clay, just as the pigments I use come from the earth. I want my painting to be what it contains. It should speak, not me. Brown and ochre stoneware bowls beside a white porcelain pitcher. I paint things made of clay, just as the pigments I use come from the earth. I place the pale eggs on a dark, unadorned tabletop and let them roll into place. Brown and ochre stoneware bowls beside a white porcelain pitcher, the dusky red walls not meant to symbolize anything but itself. I place the pale eggs on a dark, unadorned tabletop and let them roll into place. I want to paint in a way that the eye disappears into the sky and trees. The dusky red wall is not meant to symbolize anything but itself. Variations on a theme are of no interest. A bowl and cup are not ideas. This poem is after Edmund Spenser, and it took a sonnet by Spenser and just kept his rhyme scheme, but I changed everything else. The wind rewrites your name in sand, and with a voluptuous flare scrapes it away. Who else offers you an invisible hand? Is it only vanity to want to write an essay which will do its job, immortalize each step of your imminent decay? Which you is you today? Pray or pray. Let the wind swirl your name likewise. Believe what you want. Everything you devise shall crumble to dust. You'll never gain fame, for the wind is all you have to eternize your bodily summation in a common name. Folly to think the world is a monster to subdue, that no matter what, it will return and renew. And then, just to show how chronological it is, after I turned 69, I don't imagine that a chariot is hurrying near, but that a sleek car is speeding up. I have started a list of the costumes I want to be buried in, beginning with horny centaur. I try to put aside obituaries, but I'm unable to do so for very long, maybe 10 minutes. I eat the same meal night after night while reading recipes of dishes I've never tasted. I shudder nearly every time I read the phrase lifetime guarantee or your money back. I no longer find it necessary to stop and look at what's going on at a construction site. I decide I won't tell people to stop sending me books even if I will never read them. I stop and watch ambulances trying to get past cars that don't want to move aside. I begin thinking about different methods I might use to remove myself from the story. I know what my friend meant when he said his dog would take his place on the couch. I think about the cities I will never return to, including Caracas and Caracas. I wonder when I will no longer begin a poem with the words if and when. I dream that my ashes will be scattered in a remote spot in Ireland that no one visits. I admit that shrinking into myself is not as unpleasant as I once thought. I think that's it. Sorry. I'll read one more from this book. It's called Hotel Jane Alice Peters. I like sitting in Hotel Jane Alice Peters. I like sitting in hotel lobbies that are as big as the apse of a cathedral and strung with Christmas lights. I like it when my posterior sinks into the cushion provided by the hotel management for exactly this encounter between lower extremity and nuanced comfort. I like letting my spine and all the flesh that surrounds it fall back into the carefully rounded, slightly tilting support that is attached to an elevated pairing of horizontal cushions that rest securely on four elegantly turned legs. I like the silver claws that form the chair's feet. I like knowing the architecture of this assembly was constructed with human ease in mind. I like pretending that I belong in a lobby festooned with polished brass fixings reminiscent of another era, or framed by fluted marble columns hearkening back to an even earlier era. I like knowing I can travel back in time. This is when I start replaying my favorite interlude, when I begin dreaming of meeting Carol Lombard, who died in a plane crash in Mount Potosi, Nevada, aged 33. This happened on January 16th, 1942. Today is January 17th, 2019, more than 75 years later. Is there a hotel in Mount Potosi? Is it named after Lombard, third wife of Clark Gable? I like burrowing inside the extinct topography resurrected by young hotel designers, their manufactured version of our collective longing. I like their efforts to harness the barely controllable desire we have to step away from the time we inhabit into a hologram sector that has not been overrun by apocalyptic data. I like knowing that the scar a car accident left on Lombard's face could not be completely erased, and that we can see its trace on her cheek, like a horizon line, when the camera moves in close, as in Hands Across the Table, 1935, co-starring the charmless Fred McMurray. I like knowing that she did not want to simper prettily or scream in terror on the screen. I like knowing that the E was added onto her name by mistake and that she decided to keep it. I like knowing that she took life as it came, even if I am not of that ilk and do not want to go down that tortuous path. Okay, so these poems that I'm going to read are from Tell It Slant. I probably should explain the title since all of you probably has an idea of where it came from, but I have a little commentary on it. So the book is dedicated for my friends born in two worlds. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant, Emily Dickinson. You can't scare me, you slant-eyed yellow bastard. CIA agent, The Kentucky Fried Movie, 1977. Memories of Charles Street, Boston. Just a little thing is where I grew up. Memories of Charles Street, Boston. One day I wake up and my hair has turned white and I'm no longer Chinese. I want to ask my mother about this change in my appearance, but she's been dead longer than I've been alive. You have to take the good with the bad, she used to tell me, before trying to drown me in the bathtub. My father sat in the next room in his imported black underwear, smoking a perfumed cigar and jerking off in front of the television he had dragged in from the street. It never worked. It still doesn't. And the blue stains on the chair are why I never sit there. After I turned 71, for Laura Mullen, I did not expect to see myself standing before a mirror. I looked like someone I would never want to meet. I wonder if I've made a mistake without knowing it. I'm sure the word disaster does not tell the whole story. I know there's room for improvement, but I decide to skip over that part. I realize this passport is the last one that will be issued to me. I begin to think the joke is not only on me. I can walk in any direction and still end up in the wrong place. I stop trying to make a list of words I will never use again. I decide making sense is no longer an acceptable form of lying. I think it's prudent to let others do the counting. I often tell strangers that I might start vomiting when the seasons begin to change. I agree that reincarnation is a scam perpetuated by life insurance companies. I liked it when the cab driver called me young man and gave him a smaller tip. Chinatown Blues. Don't keep saying poetry makes nothing happen. I'm not trying to be your surrogate chaplain. I'm going to grow up and be a hatchet man, doing the sharp and shiny thing, being the best I can. Don't tell me the wood is far too green or yellow, or that Mr. Frost, protector of fences, is a jolly good fellow. I'm still going to grow up and tell it slant. Don't even try and tell me I can't. Stop reminding me I have to watch what I say, be polite, or I'll have to pay and pay. I'm still going to grow and be a hatchet man, doing the sharp and shiny thing, being the very best I can. This is another from the Painter's Thoughts. This is the Painter's Thoughts 6, and it's after the artist Peter Saul. I was searching my brain for some unexpected subject matter. I'm 86, and in grave danger of appearing elderly and demented, unless you can come up with some subject you haven't done, even as a child. Flowers, for example. I haven't looked at them, much less painted them. I'm 86 and in grave danger of appearing elderly and demented. I'm avoiding the reality that in a mere 14 years, I'll be dead. Flowers, for example. I haven't looked at them, much less painted them. I got right to work. The usual careless distortions, on purpose or not. I'm avoiding the reality that in a mere 14 years, I'll be dead. It turns out that flowers are just as good subjects as flying saucers. I got right to work. The usual careless distortions, on purpose or not. It doesn't matter that nobody's fooled, because I am, at least artistically. It turns out that flowers are just as good subjects as flying saucers. Right now, I'm thinking of God and Superman battling it out above an American city. It doesn't matter that nobody's fooled, because I am, at least artistically. Who wants to think about how much will be destroyed at a time like this? Right now, I'm thinking of God and Superman battling it out above an American city. I was searching my brain for some unexpected subject matter. Who wants to think about how much will be destroyed at a time like this, unless you can come up with some subject you haven't done, even as a child. I'll actually read another. This one's A Painter's Thought 7. It's after Lowest Dawn. It is someone else's subject if you think it would look good if they painted it. If I work on this painting longer, it would be perfect and no longer mine. On with my thin paint. Putting on a second coat will shut out the light. Mirandy's paintings are wonderful, but they have not influenced me. If I work on this painting longer, it would be perfect and no longer mine. I admire juicy paint on other people's canvases, but that's not what I do. Mirandy's paintings are wonderful, but they have not influenced me. Even if I never tell a story, my feelings and emotions will come through. I admire juicy paint on other people's canvases, but that's not what I do. In the beginning it was cows, just cows. Now it's human beings. Even if I don't tell a story, my feelings and emotions will come through. I don't want fancy stuff or even a lot of stuff. Don't blame the abstract artist for this. In the beginning it was cows, just cows. Now it's human beings. I don't like distant views. I wouldn't be happy going to the top of the mountain. I don't want fancy stuff or even a lot of stuff. Don't blame the abstract artist for this. The easel was there. I thought, well, this is fun. Here I am, painting myself painting. I don't like distant views. I wouldn't be happy going to the top of the mountain. It's someone else's subject if you think it would look good if they painted it. The easel was there. I thought, well, this is fun. Here I am, painting myself painting. And with my thin paint, putting on a second coat will shut out the light. Another series I wrote was called Li Shang-yin Enters Manhattan, based on the James Ensor painting Christ Entering Brussels. The title, not the poem. I'm a parakeet in a cave. Malaysia's candle flame. An open letter to myself, who is you. Poets always need to be foreign, even in their own country. I was walking into a candy store when I bumped into another dance of ink I will never join in fragrant ceremony. Drips of soot filling clouds of yesterday's imagination. Can you sing of in a downloaded song and not sound like you are a native speaker lost in an alley with two entrances, one of which is your mouth? I comb streets of sand and pollen, looking for flowers whose petals possess a remedy for dreams filled with poorly transcribed instructions guaranteed to make every devourer wish life could be written in reverse. Do you know whose glossolalia you'll be speaking in today? 2. The greatest poet in Chinese history is a mulberry tree on which poems are sprinkled in ash, ink, or snow. Walking the corner movie palace, talking to ladybugs, humming rhymes to radio operators, whistling standards for plankton mechanics under pine sap sky. I stop and watch a clouder of polluted cats swimming upstream in search of better furniture. I squat in a cold bath and imagine I'm a poet, a talking tree writing sonnets for humankind, an atomic clock sitting on a rock in paradise announcing, "This is the blue mirror in which you will see yourself spinning all your fault lines." 5. More huts of blather retreat into latest urban sob story. Night arrives full of carbon stains and leaking tank. What winged shadow brushed against your diesel chariot? What upright little god of the hearth did you swear at today? Who requested extra sets of hands to squeeze birds squawking right out of life, their carbonated spit splintering the air? Midnight hearse hauling their little crystal coffins back to seaweed banks, where you and your throttle of soulful bleeders have to sing for your package. No magnetic stripes, please. That is the repeat glutton pressing the unheeded lips of your baffled pocket mouth, your cold distress. Burn down legions of last overcoats, their headless shoes. There's nothing thicker than sickness dripping against the blackened bulkhead of this gutted rickshaw. Seven, I inherited yellow shack and shabby body no one wanted to move in. I took up residence there as cubits of greased windpipes sounded their pavement splatter, and I decided on glow-in-the-dark pencils as fast-track to masterpiece and high-yield cash return, while ogling owls earmarked by smoke-rinsed skyline. I've got a carpet I can wear to the Good Riddance store. Oh, producer of precious toil, did you drink your barium today? I don't keep socks in a drawer, and I don't keep stocks in a portfolio. I don't believe Earth is a barbell you hoist to heaven's penthouse suite. Birth is when you receive your first distortion. How many days in a peep show did you keep your glistening bristles behind sludge pump? Post and beam bracket tractor fish fill the dreaming pond. Don't fall asleep beside your latest broken paragraph. You never know when a stone might fall out of the blinking sky. All right, this is the last in the group of poems of Li Shangyin Enters Manhattan. 14. I left the drugstore and went and sat in the park. What language of waste had I been listening to without hearing what is there? Days grinding crust, depositing scales of human skin on sills and in our hair. Constant swirl we sit and stand in, move through. Our ancestors all around us, waiting to be swept up once again from sidewalk and chair. Barbershop pile up of hair, dust on hair, and in the air around us. What we lose of our bodies does not come back. Leave something behind each moment you breathe. Even in sleep, shedding continues. Even in this poem, which I wrote before we met and after we parted, what happened in that interval, I still circle around, blossoms of magenta dust lifted to your lips. Thanks.